Welcome, everyone. We're glad that you're here. I understand I'm a little bit soft coming across, so I'll try to be a little louder. I was hoping to announce who would be our next presenter for next month, but we're still negotiating, so I don't have that to share to you. I would like to let you know that if you have any questions, you can enter them on the chat, which is on the menu at the bottom of the screen. If you don't see a menu, move your cursor and it'll pop up. Either chat or in Q&A. You can put it in either one of those and I'll monitor those. And we'll hold all the questions till the end and I'll ask Neal those at that time. This is being recorded. So if you did register, we'll be getting you a copy of this so that but it'll probably be 2 days or so because I need to have it edited with some of the dead time taken out. And with that, let's go ahead and start tonight's presentation. Tonight's presentation is Your Body in Balance, the New Science of Food, Hormones, and Health. And our presenter is Dr. Neal Barnard. Really don't need to do much introduction to Neal, but I will anyway. He's the president of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, or PCRM. He's the founder of the Barnard Medical Center. He's an adjunct professor of medicine at George Washington University School of Medicine. He's a fellow at the American College of Cardiology. He's an author. He's written more than 19 books on nutrition and health. And we get to listen to him tonight. So, Neal, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thank you to all of you for joining in tonight. Let me share my screen, and we will get started. Okay, what I'd like to do is to suggest that we're going to go beyond the old way of thinking about food, which was you eat something unhealthy. And if you eat something unhealthy, you're going to get overweight, or you're going to get a high cholesterol level, or maybe you'll get diabetes. And so you eat something healthier and these conditions get better. Let's get a little more sophisticated. What I'd like to suggest is that when we eat certain foods, they end up controlling our hormones. And when you can control your hormones by the foods that you choose, you control an enormous number of conditions. And that's what we'll talk about today. Now, if the little photo strip on the right-hand side of your screen is getting in the way of the images, you can just minimize that, or you can drag it out of the way, and please go ahead and do that. Okay, so by now you might be asking, what are hormones anyway? Well, hormones are like letters that come in the mail. They come from the post office, and they come down the street, and they come into your house. And hormones are made in one part of your body. They go in the bloodstream to another part of your body, where they give it instructions to tell it what to do. So you can have what I'm going to call hormone haywire, hormones misbehaving, if you don't have enough hormones. But what can also happen is you can have too many. Not enough letters in the mail, too many letters in the mail. Either way, it can be very confusing and your body doesn't react very well. Okay, let's take an example. Insulin is made in your pancreas, which is an organ behind your belly button. And insulin comes from the pancreas into the bloodstream, and then it ends up at the cells of the body. And its job is to let glucose, or a simple sugar, into your cells to give them energy. So this is a cell. This purple blob could be a muscle cell or a liver cell. And there's glucose all around the outside. And if that glucose can get out of the blood and into the cell, it'll power it. Fair enough. Here's the problem. It can't get in. The glucose molecules cannot penetrate the cell. They can't get through that membrane until you have a key. That key is insulin. And the insulin arrives at the surface of the cell. It attaches to a special receptor. And once it does, it's just like a key in a lock. That insulin key, so to speak, opens up a special channel to let the glucose come through the membrane and come into the cell. Okay, terrific. So what could ever go wrong? What could go wrong is my dinner looks like that. My lunch looks like that. My breakfast looks like that. And I'm eating animal products and greasy stuff. And yes, there's a lot of fat in these foods. Chinook salmon, 52% fat. And what happens to all that fat? It ends up inside your cells. Particles of fat this is going to be on the test. Particles of fat build up inside your cells. Doctors hate words like fat because it only has 3 letters. So they'll call it intramyocellular lipid. That means fat inside your cell. Intra means inside. Myo means muscle. Cellular means cellular. Lipid means fat. Intramyocellular lipid, fat inside a muscle cell. And when fat builds up inside the muscle cell, the insulin key doesn't work anymore. That fat gums up the lock, so to speak. So the key doesn't work. And now glucose can no longer get into the cell. It's building up outside. Your blood sugar gets higher and higher and higher. And sooner or later, you're diagnosed with diabetes. And at that point, anything you eat that has sugar in it is going to build up your blood sugar. But that's not the cause. The cause is the fat inside the cell, that intramyocellular lipid. That's the problem. So if fat inside my cells is stopping my insulin from being able to get sugar into the cell, and it's letting my sugar build up outside, I need to get that fat out of the cell. How do I do that? Well, let's say I put you on a vegan diet. How much animal fat is in your diet? This is not a trick question. There isn't any. And if we keep the vegetable oils low too, then the fat inside the cell starts to dissipate. It starts to go away. And as that fat dissipates, that insulin key can work again. Your insulin sensitivity is restored. The insulin resistance is going away. And now your cell can let the glucose come back inside and things are back to normal. Okay, here's the point. You can get insulin resistance from eating fatty foods, as most Americans do: cheese, pizza, burgers, fish. But you can also improve your insulin resistance by getting those foods out of your diet. Okay, back in 2003, NIH gave our research team a grant to see if this really works. And we did a head-to-head test of a plant-based diet and a conventional diet for diabetes. The conventional diet said cut calories. You need to lose weight, let's cut calories. Let's keep carbohydrates steady. Let's not go too far into bad fats. The plant-based diet was vegan, no animal products, no chicken, no fish, no butter. It was also very low in oil. So we taught our participants how to cook without adding extra oil. And it was also low glycemic index. It's a complicated term for a really simple thing. We just favored foods that don't affect the blood sugar very much. For example, if I eat white bread, my blood sugar is likely to rise. But if I switch it for rye bread or pumpernickel bread, it has less effect on my blood sugar. So we favored low glycemic index foods like fruit or beans that don't have much effect on blood sugar. Okay, so no animal products, minimize oils, low glycemic index foods. What happened? The test that we use to track how we're doing is called hemoglobin A1C. It's a measure of your blood glucose control. And if a person has diabetes, I want to have it below 7. Our participants started around 8, not so good. The red line here is the conventional diet, and they did pretty well. They dropped by about 0.4 absolute percentage points. Very good. The blue line is the people on the vegan diet. And their hemoglobin A1C dropped not 0.4 absolute percentage points, it dropped by 1.2. In other words, 3 times better than the best current diet. And that revolutionized the treatment of type 2 diabetes. Let me show you what this means on a personal level. Vance was a policeman in Washington, D.C., and then he worked in a bank. And he came in and joined our study. I asked him about diabetes and what it meant to him. He said, oh, it means I'm going to end up losing a leg, probably go blind. Vance knew what he was talking about. He had diabetes all up and down his family tree. Vance's father was dead at age 30. Vance was 31 when he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. He came in to see us in his late 30s, and he was assigned to the vegan diet. And I remember him telling me that this was a really easy diet. And I thought that's kind of surprising. People think of a vegan diet as being challenging. You know, you've got to acquire a taste for folk music, maybe wear tie-dyed clothes. He said, no. A typical old-fashioned diabetes diet to him meant you had to cut calories and go to bed hungry every night because you're trying to starve off the extra weight. And you have to count carbohydrate grams and not eat too much in the way of fruit or pasta or beans. And we didn't make him do any of those things. All we did was make some pretty simple substitutions. Instead of meat chili, have bean chili. Instead of ground beef on your spaghetti, you have a tomato sauce. Very simple changes. And over a year's time, he lost 60 pounds. His doctor stopped his diabetes medications. And his hemoglobin A1C, which was 9.5 to start, which is not good, dropped to 5.3, which is totally normal. And I want to tell you something. When I got his lab results, I paced around my office for about 10 minutes, trying to decide if I could tell Vance that he was cured from his diabetes. I was taught in medical school, as pretty much all doctors are, that diabetes never gets better. It never goes away. Once you have diabetes, you'll always have diabetes. That's a very common phrase. And it's that phrase is used for good reason, that people who have diabetes need to take it seriously. They need to monitor themselves. They need to be very careful with their diet and careful with their medications. However, here was a man who clearly had diabetes. He had had it for years. He was treated with medications, and now he was on no medications and had an absolutely normal blood sugar. And what we started to realize is that diabetes is not a one-way street. It is a two-way street. It can come and it can go. It can arrive and it can be cured. Don't get me wrong. Velveeta is waiting right around the corner. And if you dip back into the foods that cause diabetes in the first place, you can get it again. But diabetes indeed can improve dramatically so that you would never know a person had it. Oh, by the way, when I was asking Vance his permission to share his experience with you, he said, make sure you tell everybody that my erectile dysfunction went away too. All right, more on that later. All right, so what's a healthy diet? A healthy diet is fruits and grains and vegetables and legumes. Legumes are beans, peas, lentils, foods that grow in a pod. You also need to take vitamin B12, which is essential for healthy nerves and healthy blood, and it's available in supplements at every health food store, every drugstore. It's in every multiple vitamin you ever took. Okay, so let's shift gears. We talked about insulin. Insulin, the hormone that controls sugar. Let's talk about sex hormones. Estradiol, for example. It's an estrogen, a female sex hormone. Male sex hormone, testosterone. Well, this is Robin. Robin taught me a lot about estrogens. She called me up one day. She said, I'm in misery. And she was on the phone describing her condition. Every single month, she had one day where she said she was being tortured. She had such bad menstrual cramps that she couldn't go to work that day. And that happened just about one day every single month. And that happens for maybe 1 in 10 women have menstrual pain that is so bad that they're really unable to function about one day every month. I suggested to her something that I think no doctor had ever suggested before. I said, yes, I could give you some painkillers, which is what you wanted. But I said, let's, in addition to painkillers for a day or two, how about a diet change? I said, for the next 4 weeks, no animal products at all and keep oils really, really low. She said, well, try anything, maybe it'll help. And she got dramatically better. She called me back a month later and said, my period arrived with 0 symptoms. Next month, same thing, no pain at all. Next month, no pain. And she only started having pain if she violated these rules. So in other words, the diet change worked. I then put it to a much bigger test. We brought in a group of women to the Georgetown University Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology for a test. Half of them started the diet that I just described, vegan, no added oil. The other half took a nutritional supplement it was really a placebo, a dummy pill. And then after 2 cycles, 2 months, they switched. The diet group started the supplement group started the diet. So each participant was able to test the diet and test the supplement. In a nutshell, it worked. We published the findings in a journal called Obstetrics and Gynecology. And what we found was that pain intensity fell, pain duration fell, PMS symptoms like water retention or trouble concentrating or changes in your behavior, that fell too. Now, in the course of this trial, if this wasn't remarkable enough, we found one other thing. Because we were looking at using foods to tackle a hormonal condition, menstrual pain, we asked all of the participants not to use any kind of hormonal medicines because that would goof up our study. And so what that also meant is that if the women were sexually active and using the pill, that's a hormone. We didn't want them to be taking that. We said, please use some other kind of contraception. One of the women in the study said, Dr. Barnard, I don't need any kind of contraception. My husband and I wanted to have a baby, but we were evaluated and it's me. I don't ovulate. We're totally infertile as a couple, but it's on me. I don't need any kind of contraception. I'm not fertile. The second month that she was on the vegan diet, she came into our research center and said, Dr. Barnard, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The bad news is I'm leaving your study. And the good news is I am pregnant. And she gave birth to a healthy baby. And then years later, I ran into her. She came to a lecture I gave in another city. And she told me she now had 3 children. She was not infertile as a diagnosis. She was out of balance. And when we get our hormones back into better balance, pain can diminish, fertility can change. So many aspects of our health can be completely rewritten. Okay, so let me walk you through what's happening in this case. Now, we're talking about estrogen. This graph is the amount of estrogen in a woman's blood over the course of a month of her cycle. And at the beginning of the cycle, there's very little estrogen in her blood. It rises to a peak after about 2 weeks. She's ovulating. An ovary is releasing an egg. And then in the week after that, the amount of estrogen slowly increases. And that's because the uterus is the most optimistic organ in the body. Every month, it's convinced, this is the big one. We're going to get pregnant for sure. We better get ready. And so what the estrogen does, goes in the bloodstream, it makes the uterus ready for pregnancy. It thickens the lining of the uterus. But then after that week is finished, the disappointed uterus discovers that we're not pregnant after all, and the amount of estrogen falls and the whole uterine lining is discarded with menstrual flow. Here's the key. All of this can change. If you eat the wrong foods, you get too much estrogen. If you eat the right foods, it brings it right back down. Foods control this. Okay, let me be a little more graphic here. This is the uterus in the middle of your screen. On the right and left, you see the ovaries connected by the fallopian tubes. Every month, that pink uterine lining thickens up in anticipation of pregnancy. But what if I have a little too much estrogen going around the bloodstream? What can happen is that uterine lining, that endometrial layer, thickens up too much, and it then produces prostaglandins, which cause terrible pain as your period commences. As this young woman was describing her symptoms to me, I started to make an educated guess that she had too much estrogen in her blood, and that if we could bring it down, we might cure her pain. So how does that happen? How can I use foods to get hormones into balance? Okay, well, we already knew fiber reduces estrogens. Now, fiber is big stuff. Don't go to sleep. I know it's a boring word, but fiber means plant roughage, the roughage in fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains. Fiber reduces estrogens. So if I pump up the fiber, that's going to help. Fat increases estrogens. So if I get the fat out of my diet, I should do better. How do I know this? Because many research teams have been studying it. And some of the best studies were done at Tufts University. In 1994, they brought in 48 premenopausal women, and they asked them to do a wide variety of diets for a short period of time. Some of the diets were cutting the fat from 40% of calories down to 20 or 25. Some of them boosted fiber from 12 grams a day up to 40. So we're manipulating different parts of the diet, but everybody's locked up so nobody could go to McDonald's. It was isocaloric, meaning we were keeping the calories the same. We were making sure nobody gained or lost weight. We're just manipulating fat and fiber. And what did we see? If you do nothing but reduce the fat, everything gets better. Estradiol, estrone, free estradiol, estrone sulfate. These are different types of estrogens. They all get better. They all reduce. That's good. If you do nothing but increase the fiber, all of these things get better too. So what's a vegan diet? A vegan diet has how much animal fat? 0. And every mouthful of food you eat has fiber in it. It's doing both at the same time. It's the best of both possible worlds. Okay, let me walk you through what happens with fiber. This is your liver. Your liver pulls estrogen out of the blood. It sends that unwanted estrogen down that green bile duct into the intestinal tract, and their fiber from the vegetables or beans that you ate escorts the estrogens out through your intestinal tract, right down, literally down the toilet. You're flushing away unwanted estrogens. That's great. But what if your lunch was a salmon fillet? How much fiber is there in a salmon fillet? Well, it's not a plant. None. Okay, what if I ate some cheese? How much fiber is there in cheese? Not a plant, no fiber. Okay, there is no fiber in animal products. There's plenty of fiber in plants. So if you're eating an average American diet full of animal products, you're not getting fiber, and that waste estrogen ends up going back into your blood. What I'm getting at is that for most women and men on omnivorous diets, they are recycling the very hormones their body is trying to get rid of. And if you take a blood sample, there's too much estrogen in a woman's blood, minute by minute, day by day. It's thickening up the lining of the uterus, and it sets her up for pain at the end of the cycle. Okay, so I want to make sure everyone's paying attention. Spam, fiber or no fiber? What do you think?
None.
No fiber. Okay, very good. Well, here is a trash can, and there it goes. All right, KFC, fiber or no fiber?
None.
No? Well, actually, there's some in the carton. If you eat the carton, you'll get a little bit of fiber, but the chicken, no, it's not a plant. Okay, we're going to get rid of that. And there are some foods that started out life as plants, but through processing, they became unrecognizable. Bad things were added, good things were taken away, and there's not much fiber left, so we're going to throw that out too. All right, very easy to increase the fiber. So it helps to boost the fiber and cut the fat. And so when Robin called me up and said, I can't move, my brain just said, okay, I'll bet you if we boost the fiber, cut the fat with a healthy vegan diet, we might be able to cure your menstrual cramps. If this is you or someone you know, don't take this on faith. Give it a try. Give it a try for 2 good months, 2 good cycles, and see if it doesn't help. All right, boosting the fiber, cutting the fat is good. Is there anything else I can do? Well, yes, there is. I want to tell you the story of Katherine. Katherine grew up in Louisiana. She was an Air Force aerospace engineer, and in 2003, Uncle Sam sent her to Iraq to build military bases. And when you're in a war zone and you work really hard and you eat what the government has given you, you don't gain a whole lot of weight. But when she got off the plane at the end of her tour of duty and she was back home in the United States, her family decided to take her out to eat and make up for all the things that she had missed when she was in Iraq, and especially cheese. Katherine loved cheese. She adored cheese, mac and cheese snacks, all kinds of stuff. And in fact, a friend of hers for her birthday gave her an entire case of mac and cheese, 48 boxes of macaroni and cheese, which Katherine ate dutifully for 48 days straight. Well, she gained weight. She also got a syndrome called endometriosis. Endometriosis means that uterine lining that we were talking about, that endometrial layer, sheds cells that apparently go out the fallopian tubes and implant all around your abdomen. They can implant on the intestinal tract, on the ovaries, on the fallopian tubes. And when they implant, they swell, they bleed, they scar, they lead to pain. And to the extent they are destroying the ovaries and the fallopian tubes, it causes infertility. And this was her situation. Month after month, she started having increasing pain. She went to see her doctor, who gave her painkillers, gave her hormone medications. Nothing helped. Finally, the doctor said, well, there's one other thing, Katherine, that we can do. And that's we'll just take everything out. Let's just take out your uterus. We'll do a hysterectomy. Now, Katherine was 27 years old. And she said, well, my husband and I haven't raised our family yet. I'm not sure I want to have a hysterectomy at this point. And her doctor said, I have to tell you, because of the extent of your endometriosis, you're almost certainly infertile already. You've got nothing to lose but your pain. She agreed. And she made an appointment to have a hysterectomy 6 weeks later. But in that interim, she went to see a nutrition expert who told her about the diet changes that we had tested out earlier. Vegan diet, keeping oils really low, super simple, healthy foods. And she started feeling better, a lot better. She was losing weight, her energy was better, and her pain was improving. But her pain did not go away 100%. She still had the feeling that something wasn't right in her abdomen. So she thought, I may as well go through it with it and have the hysterectomy. She went to the hospital. They put her under general anesthesia. An hour later, she woke up in the recovery room and her doctor was there. He said, Katherine, I need to tell you something. I took a look inside with a laparoscope, but when I did, your endometriosis is practically gone. I don't know how that happened, but the reason you had a little bit of pain was that you had scarring where the endometriosis used to be. And you had some adhesions that I just freed up. But the endometriosis itself, something has happened. It's gone away. And her mother was in the recovery room with her. Her mother said, she went vegan. And the doctor said, stop it. Diet does not cause endometriosis, and there is no way that a diet change can make it go away. This has got to be a miracle. Well, miracle or not, the doctor did not do the hysterectomy. He said, I'm leaving your organs in place. And I want to say good on that doctor for not doing the operation. However, what he missed is that foods do indeed affect hormones. They affect hormones very rapidly. And a hormonal change or a diet change can affect the very hormones that can lead to endometriosis. And as it turned out, she lost a lot of weight. She improved her energy. She was not infertile after all. She now has 3 kids of her own, and she ended up becoming an instructor to teach other women how to take back their own health. Okay, so I mentioned cheese. Katherine loved cheese. Does cheese have hormones in it? Well, let's see. Cheese comes from milk. Milk comes from a cow. Cows are impregnated every year because after their 9-month gestation, when they give birth, that's when they start producing milk. And cows on dairies are impregnated annually to keep their milk flowing maximally. Here's the point. They are milked into their pregnancy. And a pregnant cow makes a lot of estrogen. A non-pregnant cow makes estrogen. But when they're pregnant, they make even more. It gets into their blood plasma, but especially into their milk. And every glass of milk you ever drank, every spoon of ice cream you ever ate, every pat of butter that ever went on a piece of toast had estrogens in it that came from the cow. Yep, there's no such thing as hormone-free milk. I'm not talking about hormones added. I'm talking about hormones made by the cow herself. Okay, so if you talk to friends about a vegan diet and you talk about hormones, they're going to ask you, what about soy? I heard that soy has hormones in it. Here's what they're thinking of. They're thinking of isoflavones. These were identified in soy products back in the 1930s, and genistein is one, and there are several others, and their chemical structure does look like estrogens. They'll even attach to estrogen receptors. And so that worried scientists. For a long time, they thought, if the soy isoflavones will attach to the estrogen receptors on, say, a breast cell, maybe it could cause breast cancer. So researchers started to look, but they discovered something. In 2004, researchers published a meta-analysis combining the results of 8 different studies. And the studies were done on Asians and Asian Americans, which is an important group to study because although some consume virtually no soy, there are some who consume a lot of soy, lots of miso, tempeh, tofu, soy milk. And so they were able to get a really good comparison as compared with, say, just typical Americans don't eat a whole lot of soy. So they had a great comparison here. And what they found was surprising. Those women consuming the most soy had 29% less risk of developing breast cancer. And follow-up studies showed not only is this confirmed in other studies, but when women have had cancer in the past, treated for breast cancer, and now they got one thing on their mind, which is, I hope my cancer never comes back. It turns out that those people who avoid soy have the highest mortality. Those women who consume the most soy, I'm talking soy milk, tofu, they are about 25 or 30% less likely to die of their cancer. So soy does affect cancer risk. It reduces the likelihood of getting breast cancer. It reduces the likelihood of dying of a previous cancer. In men, it also reduces the risk of prostate cancer. All right, so let's shift gears. I want to talk a little bit about the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland is at the base of your neck. And it is the Clark Kent of endocrine organs. It's very modest. You don't even know it's there, but it gives energy to every part of your body. And it oversees your body's use of energy. There it is right there. It's shaped like a butterfly. And hypothyroidism is when your thyroid gland isn't putting out much thyroid hormone. It means you're going to feel weak, fatigued, sensitive to cold, constipated, nothing's working right. Exactly. Your mood isn't even functioning very well. But you can have the opposite. Instead of hypothyroidism, you can be hyperthyroid, too much thyroid hormone. And it's the opposite. Typically, people lose weight. You've got a rapid pulse. You're nervous. You're revved up, and things aren't going right either. Like all hormones, like insulin, like estrogen, thyroid hormone needs to be in balance. Okay, so why would I ever be hypothyroid? Yes, it's really common, but why would it happen? Okay, this is the thyroid hormone molecule, thyroxine, T4. See those purple atoms there? That's iodine. To make the thyroid hormone, you need iodine. And iodine is an element that is not super common. Now, in 1924, the Morton Company marketed these little canisters of salt, iodized salt. And they made sure everybody had iodine in their diet. And suddenly everybody across America was getting lots of iodine. And hypothyroidism fell dramatically. We're modern people today, though. We have sea salt and kosher salt and Himalayan salt. And they may well not be iodized. So a lot of people are running low. Now, the dairy industry will run to your defense by telling you, well, dairy products have iodine in them. Well, they do, but you might not want to access that source. The reason is that the teats of a cow's udder get caked with mud and dried up milk and feces and other things. And so before being milked, there's an iodine-containing disinfectant painted on the teat. And some of that disinfectant then ends up in the milk machinery and ends up in the carton of milk. So what you're consuming is disinfectant. And the dairy industry will say, well, it's a great source of iodine. It's an iodine disinfectant. You don't want that. A much better source is sea vegetables. Now, when I was a kid growing up in North Dakota, we didn't really know what sea vegetables were, seaweeds. But let's say you were to go to a sushi bar. Don't have the fish sushi, but have a cucumber roll or an asparagus roll or a sweet potato roll. And that nori seaweed that it's wrapped in is a great source of iodine. That's true for the wakame seaweed in your miso soup. It's true of arame, which, by the way, if you've never had arame, go to the store, get a cucumber, slice it up really thin, put a tiny pinch of salt on it, and some seasoned rice vinegar and a little bit of arame. It's the most delicate, cool salad you have ever had. You'll see the recipe for it in your Body in Balance. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so if you, worldwide, if you are hypothyroid, the most common reason is a lack of iodine. But in the United States, it's something else. Antibodies. Your body can make antibodies to your own thyroid gland. What do you mean? Your body's making, your white blood cells are making proteins. little protein torpedoes. They go and attack the body of your thyroid gland. And if they stop it from being able to make thyroid hormone, you're hypothyroid. If they stop your thyroid gland from being able to regulate its production of the hormone, in other words, they interfere with the brake, well, in that case, you end up hyperthyroid. So the most common cause of hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism is antibodies that don't belong there. What could that be? Well, by the way, the diagnoses for hypothyroidism caused by antibodies, that's called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. For hyperthyroidism, it's called Graves' disease. It doesn't mean that it's a terribly grave disease. It means it was named after Robert Graves, the doctor who coined the name. Okay, so can foods affect this? The answer is we think so. The Adventist Health Study 2 studied almost 66,000 people. And what they discovered is that people following a vegan diet were least likely to develop hypothyroidism. Omnivores did worse. And perhaps surprisingly, the people who had the most hypothyroidism were lacto-ovo-vegetarians, meaning they weren't consuming meat, but they were making up for it with cheese and milk and ice cream and yogurt. And when it came to hyperthyroidism, once again, the vegans did the best. Now the omnivores do the worst. What we believe is happening is that the proteins in the dairy products and the proteins in the meat are recognized as foreign proteins by the body. Your body makes up antibodies to attack them as if it's attacking a virus. And those same antibodies end up by friendly fire attacking your own thyroid gland. Is this true? We need more research, but let me share with you one of many, many case studies that we have seen. This is Nancy. Nancy is an accountant. She was hypothyroid. Starting at age 19, she was overweight, she was fatigued. She had all the classic symptoms of low thyroid. She was treated with levothyroxine, that's thyroid hormone, and her weight went up, her total cholesterol went up, both happened to reach the same number, 265, not good. She started a plant-based diet though, vegan diet. Her weight fell dramatically down to 150. Her total cholesterol dropped too, down to 148. Her thyroid returned to normal. Her doctor stopped her levothyroxine and she started to feel great for the first time in decades. And there she is. In fact, she got her energy back. So instead of being overweight and out of shape, she decided she had energy to burn. She started running and felt better than she's felt in just so many years. Okay, can you do this? Talk with your doctor. Your doctor can monitor you and can back you off your thyroid hormone if and when the time is right. Okay, so what's a healthy diet? Fruits, grains, vegetables, legumes. Don't forget your vitamin B12. You need this for healthy nerves and healthy blood. And the amount you need is really tiny, 2.4 micrograms per day. And you'll find it, as I said, in every health food store, every drugstore, and you'll find it in astronomical quantities, 5,000 micrograms. Just get 100 micrograms or 200. Take that every day. You're going to be fine. Okay? So if you were dragged to this program by someone else who said, watch this, but you're now thinking, maybe this would be good to do, but I don't know how to start. I'm not sure if I could do it. Let me share with you how we introduce a healthy plant-based diet to people in our clinic. And I have never seen anyone unable to do it. Here's why. We break it into 2 steps. The first step is called checking out the possibilities. Take 7 days to think through what you would eat if you were following a vegan diet. That's all we need to do for the next 7 days is figure out what I'd eat. Okay, take a piece of paper. Write on the paper breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. I'm serious. Do this if you've not yet followed a vegan diet. And over the next 7 days, think about what you'd eat. Okay, what has no animal products in it that I could have for breakfast? Oatmeal, but I want to flavor that up. Let me put some cinnamon on it, some raisins, maybe some sliced bananas, blueberry pancakes with maple syrup, bran flakes, not with cow's milk. That's not vegan, but almond milk would be fine. Try the veggie sausage. Try a breakfast scrambler, not with eggs, but with tofu. If you don't like it, skip it. If you like it, put it on the list. Let's go on to lunch. Could I have a pizza without cheese? Give it a try. If you like it, put it on the list. I could have a chunky vegetable chili, the bean burrito, veggie burgers. There's a zillion choices. Every Italian restaurant will start you off with a delicious light salad. They'll add lentil soup or pasta e fagioli, an angel hair pasta topped with arrabbiata sauce and grilled vegetables on the side. Okay, all vegan and delicious. Every Latin American restaurant will have veggie fajitas, bean burritos, beans and rice. Chinese restaurants, dozens of vegan choices from the rice dishes and the tofu dishes and the vegetable dishes. Extra points for Japanese because they not only have many vegan choices, from the edamame to the miso soup and the seaweed salads and all the vegan sushi dishes, but they also are very low in oil naturally. Now, fast food chains have got you covered too. Taco Bell, not the pinnacle of culinary art, but nonetheless, if you go in there, you will discover they can make you a bean burrito, hold the cheese, and that is vegan. Go into Subway, you are probably the 17th person that day that got their vegan sandwich. So go in, it's all there for you. Okay, so what I've been doing is taking a week, thinking about my options, putting them on a piece of paper. And now you got a pretty good list. Okay, that was step one. Step two, eat the foods. For the next 3 weeks, we are going to go all vegan all the time for 3 weeks. And what happens is if you do this without straying, if you're actually following a healthy, low-fat vegan diet for 3 weeks, A, you have physical changes. You lose weight, your blood sugar improves, your digestion sorts itself out, you feel lighter, you got better energy. B, your tastes are changing. You haven't had cheese or meat in a couple of weeks. Your tastes start forgetting about those things. And you find yourself discovering a whole new world of healthy new tastes and new websites and new recipes and new restaurants and new friends who are saying, we've been vegan all this time, where have you been? And you're discovering that it's a really cool place to be. We have an app that will help you. If you haven't already downloaded this, do. It's in your iPhone, it's on your Android. It's called the 21-Day Vegan Kickstart. And we designed this for caregivers, doctors, dietitians, nurses, to give to their patients. It's in English, it's in Spanish, it is free. It's got menus, recipes, and cooking videos, all for free. Okay, 21-Day Vegan Kickstart. This is my book, Your Body in Balance. And I want to say a big thank you to Lindsay Nixon. Lindsay S. Nixon is a genius in the kitchen. She did all of the recipes for it and really put it to work. And here's how the book works. At the beginning, we're going to talk about sex hormones and their effects on fertility and cramps and hormone-related cancers, PCOS, menopausal symptoms. If you know somebody who's got hot flashes, please run, do not walk, to a healthy approach to your diet. And let's see if we don't knock those out for you. Okay, part two, we're going to talk about metabolism and mood, erectile dysfunction and diabetes and thyroid conditions, and even things like moodiness. And finally, part three, what is a healthy diet? How do I put it to work? How do I avoid the chemicals that sometimes end up in my foods and menus and recipes? And Lindsay did such a great job. You're going to want to share these with everybody you know. You'll probably end up saving their life too. And that's really what I want to focus on in this last minute. And that's to say thank you. I want to thank the organizers for allowing me to share this evening with you. But I'm hoping that you found this enjoyable and hopefully informative. Please don't keep it to yourself. There are so many 15-year-old girls who are doubled up with pain one day every single month. So many 16-year-old boys who are starting to gain weight. And as they gain weight and end up with diabetes or thyroid problems or erectile dysfunction, they think maybe it was just caused by old age or something else. Foods give us tremendous power. And in the course of using that power, we're improving our health, we're helping our families, we're certainly helping the environment, as everybody knows, and we're helping the animals that we share this planet with. And so we get the best of all possible worlds. Let's not neglect it. Let's learn what we can. Let's connect. Let's make some noise with this. Let's see if we can't change the world. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Barnard. That was excellent.
Well, thank you.
Anyone that's attending have any questions, shoot them in through the chat, or looks like we've got some coming in now. Aside from exercise, goji berries, kiwi, sesame, almonds, what are other ways to manage menopause in regards to sleeping better?
Okay, if a person is dealing with menopausal symptoms, and the reason that she is not sleeping so well is because she has hot flashes, that's very, very common. Hot flashes means your blood vessels that are in your skin are all of a sudden widening out. This is called vasodilation. And when they do, you suddenly feel hot. It's the middle of the night, you wake up, you're sweating, you throw the covers off, and after a few minutes, you are now chilled. And this can happen 4 or 5 times a night, and you have a rotten night's sleep and you feel terrible the next day. More research is needed on this, but try the following 3 steps. If you're not already following a vegan diet, do it. 100% vegan, no animal products at all. Number 2, keep oils very low. So now is a time to avoid not just cooking oils and things, but even things like peanut butters and guacamole. Minimize them now. And let's do this for about 2 months, 3 months, something like that. And this is more than enough time to do a good test. Third, get yourself a pressure cooker, like an Instant Pot. Cook up a big batch of whole soybeans and have a half a cup per day. Cook them up 40 minutes in the pressure cooker, portion them out in half-cup servings, in little serving cups or Ziploc bags. And so you're going to be vegan, low-fat, half a cup of cooked soybeans every day. Use the soybeans like pine nuts on your salad, something like that, and see if you don't do better. If you do, let me know.
Very good. Next question. Where can you get B12 in bulk quantity? I can answer that.
Well, B12 is added to certain food products like nutritional yeast, but I recommend that you not rely on that source, because some days you might have some and some days you might not, and it may not be enough. So I would encourage you to go online or go to a health food store or go to a drugstore and just buy the smallest B12 they have. Some of them are methylcobalamin, others are cyanocobalamin. They both work. It doesn't really matter. But you don't need the ones that are 10,000 micrograms. That's way more than you need. Get the smallest one you can.
Very good. Next question. I've been a vegan for about 8 years and still have
Hypothyroidism?
Yes, but don't eat a lot of sea vegetables. If I increase sea vegetables, might that help to finally get me off of leaven?
Yeah, you're probably on levothyroxine. Well, first of all, thank you for asking that question. And you should definitely make sure that you see your doctor and get tested, because one of my primary messages here is that we want to be in balance. You need a certain amount of iodine. You don't need too much iodine, and your doctor can tell you where you are. It's a really easy test to do. And so if you are low, as many people are, that's the time to add a little bit of iodized salt, like 1/3 of a teaspoon gets you started, or even better, daily seaweed, or some people take an actual iodine supplement, which is often sold as kelp. The amount you need is 150 micrograms a day. But if you're taking extra iodine when you don't need it, you can end up getting too much. So I'd encourage you to get tested.
Okay, next question. It's a comment. Very interesting. We've really enjoyed this presentation.
Well, thank you very much.
And the next one, is there a recording of this presentation that I could share with others? And I can answer that. Yes, we are recording it. We'll take a couple of days to do the editing of it, but then we will give it to everybody that registered. Thank you for allowing us to do that.
You bet. You bet.
Next question. Should we minimize the fats found in plants, such as almond milk, cashew cream, etc.?
I think so, yes. This is particularly important if a person, A, wants to lose weight, B, is trying to reverse type 2 diabetes, or C, is trying to reverse any kind of hormonal issue. If you're young, skinny, and healthy, I wouldn't worry too much about getting some extra plant-type oils in your diet. And if they come in incidentally here and there, for most people, that's no big deal. But if you are now trying to knock out menstrual pain, trying to knock out hot flashes, these are a good time to keep that to a minimum.
Very good. Okay, I've been eating vegan for 30 plus years and exercise daily, but my cholesterol started increasing about 20 years ago when I was about 50. Now my cholesterol is just over 200. What can I do?
Okay, well, first of all, congratulations. Being vegan is great. That's the best thing for getting your cholesterol down. And for anybody who's got a cholesterol issue, going vegan is job one. That eliminates all of the cholesterol in your diet. It eliminates all the animal fat. But there are a couple of other culprits that are still around. Coconut oil and palm oil are loaded with saturated fat, just as butter is, just as lard is. And in the same way as butter or lard will raise your cholesterol, coconut fat will too, and so is palm oil. And the tragedy is that somebody's got a whole bunch of coconut trees and oil palm trees, and they are pushing palm oil and coconut oil on the market, and it ends up in everything. It's in your peanut butter, it's in your veggie burger and all kinds of things. Read the label. If it's got coconut oil in it, if it's got palm oil in it, throw it away and get something else. Those products, like the Impossible Burger, which are very high in coconut fat, are designed for one purpose: to seduce a meat eater and to convince a meat eater that you don't need meat. And for that, they're great. They're tasty, they work well, and they're great for that. But you're already beyond that. You're into a healthy diet, and now is the time to pick the healthier vegan burgers like Engine 2 or Boca Burger. There's lots of choices. Get away from the fat, get away from the palm oil and coconut oil. See if you don't do better. If in about 1/10 of cases, maybe 10% of cases, you're following all the dietary guidance that I'm giving you, completely vegan, very low in oil, and cholesterol stays high. If that's the case, then we're talking genetics as being the culprit. And then you have a conversation with your doctor about whether or not to take a statin. And that's really between you and your doctor.
Excellent. Okay, next one, back to the other person who was asking, I was hoping to buy less B12 bottles to reduce waste. So I was hoping to try to get it in bulk.
Great question. Let me leave that between you and the retailer or wholesaler you're dealing with. Yeah, thank you for thinking of it.
Is there any foods that can help me with rosacea? ROSECEA.
Oh, rosacea. I don't know. It's something to try. There are people who have found that when they get away from certain sort of trigger foods, they do better. The common trigger foods are animal products, dairy, meat, eggs, but also some people react to certain plant foods like citrus fruits or gluten. Most people don't, but you can see if avoiding those trigger foods over a short period of time is helpful to you.
Very good. Okay, so that's the questions we have. Again, I want to thank you very much for being here, for putting on this presentation, and for allowing us to share it. So,
well, thank you too, and let me make a quick pitch, if I may. I hope people will get a chance to look at your body in balance. Please share it with others. Share the recipes as well. And our medical center, the Barnard Medical Center, has, ever since the beginning of the pandemic and even before that, has begun a program of telemedicine. So if you need a doctor or a dietitian to work with you, we'd be more than happy to see you. And the website there is barnardmedical.org.
very, very good. Another comment about how good the presentation is. So,
okay. Well, thank you very much. Thanks to all my friends out west. And I look forward to seeing you again once this pandemic loosens its grip. So thank you so much and have a great evening.
all right, bye.